morning with a Fox News alert. Israelis and Palestinians celebrating this morning as President Trump secures an historic peace deal to end the war in Gaza. Both Israel and Hamas agreeing to the first phase of the deal, which calls for a ceasefire and the release of all hostages.
Families praising the president after learning their loved ones will finally be returning home.
What do you guys have to say to President Trump?
Thank you. We trust you'll fulfill the mission until every hostage, every 48 of the hostages are home.
And our commander-in-chief confident the deal paves the way for peace in the Middle East.
The surrounding have all signed. I mean, they're all signed up, and it's been really an amazing period of time, and so great for Israel, so great for Muslims, for the Arab countries, and so great for this country, for the United States of America.
All right. So are we ready for this? Are we ready to believe this? Let's see. Good morning, Lucas. Oh, what's the news here on Carrie? Carrie's doing better from what I've heard. She'll be back Monday. Okay, cool. All right. And I am going to do one thing. Maybe not. All right. I am a little fuzzy. Let me try one thing here. I'm going to black out for a little bit. There we go. I cleaned my computer yesterday. Apparently the camera is a little foggy, and apologies for the background. We're doing some construction here. So try maybe, not sure how, that's just going to have to live with it. I'm doing some molding there on the cabinets. So let's see who else is here. Morning, AC. And Happy. Good morning. Yeah, it is quite the news, isn't it? So, so obviously that's President Trump doing what President Trump does. I mean, he's a deal maker, right? He's the art of the deal guy, right? So, and this is not the first. Obviously, it's not the first deal that's ever been done between Israel and its neighboring states. When I was a kid, I grew up with Israel and Egypt going after each other all the time, and that was normal. It went right back to the Bible, right back to Exodus with Moses and Pharaoh, and let my people go, right? And that I wouldn't have never thought that would have gone, or that would have lasted, and that was something that was possible, but it was. And of all people, Jimmy Carter did that. So I guess we should have known that there was always hope. The Palestinian problem has been a little bit different. It's just been in a different context. As when it was always the Gaza Strip was always Israel's territory until about 20 years ago. They essentially gave it to the Palestinians, who proceeded to ruin it. But it's been that's their sovereign territory since then, until obviously a couple of years ago when Israel had to take it back. So what do you guys think? Have you been following this? Don't really have much of a thoughts together. I've just been kind of watching this. With my wife's birthday was yesterday, so I didn't pay a lot of attention to it, but it was a pretty momentous day, I guess. And a lot of people are really hopeful. I'm less hopeful than probably most. Although, like I said, if Israel and Egypt could make peace years ago, I suppose it's possible that they could make peace with the Palestinians. They can't make peace with Hamas. That's just a bridge too far to think that Hamas, for me to believe that Hamas is going to live up to what they agreed to here. I think Israel will, because Israel's always been, despite what everybody seems to believe, Israel's always been pretty honorable about these things. And Israel genuinely wants peace. There's no reason for Israel not to want peace. It just doesn't make any sense for them to agitate unnecessarily the countries around them and the people around them that all want them to disappear. So I've been very distressed with the way that the Palestinians have been catered to, or they have their aggression and their brutality and their barbarism from last when they invaded a couple years ago in the most brutal, obviously brutal way. Excuse me. Okay, I've learned to use the mute button. But I've really been distressed by the way people have been basically conned, the gullible people that have more or less rewarded Hamas for what they did and the campaign that they've run since then. And that somehow people in the West are, I don't know what the term is. I want to say brain dead, but I would never say that. But how far divorced from reality that a lot of people in the West are, that have bought this line from this terrorist organization that has done nothing. It exists for no other reason than to destroy Israel. It's like Lucy with the football, constantly pulling the football away from Charlie Brown. And that's what Hamas does with the Western media and now with the West, most of the West. They set up these scenarios. They bring a bunch of rockets to a hospital, fire rockets from the hospital. Israel retaliates like it has no choice. And then Hamas shows all these pictures of Israel bombing a hospital, and everyone thinks Israel's such this barbaric state. Okay. Lucas has got a correction here. Yeah, complacent at the very, very least. Yeah. Short-term memory loss. Nobody remembers anything. It's true. People, it took a very short time for people to forget what really happened a couple years ago, what Hamas really did. I still have burned in my mind that awful video of that woman's body being driven through Gaza after being raped and killed, her naked body being beat by two by fours by people in the street. How do you forget that? How do you excuse that? And then all of a sudden start thinking that the people who did that you can trust and you can believe them, but you can't believe Israel. And we haven't, like I said, that's probably the worst thing we actually saw. We never saw the beheaded babies. We never saw the tortured teenagers. We never saw the videos that Hamas did of, Hamas would take the hostages' cell phones and announce to their social media crowd that, hey, I've got an announcement coming up. And everyone's like, oh, he must be all right. And then Hamas would, when everyone was tuned in, Hamas would torture and kill the person in front of all his friends and family. That's who Israel is dealing with. And that's the people we're trying to make peace with. So that's why I'm skeptical of Hamas. The Palestinian people, I'm not so sure. They're the ones that elected Hamas, in that fair election where Hamas won and then subsequently turned around and started throwing its political enemies off of tall buildings. So that's who they made peace with. And if that lasts and if that's effective, I will be pleasantly surprised and certainly impressed. Okay. The average IQ has dropped since the poke. Your opinion? It's probably shared by a lot of people, and I wouldn't doubt it. I think they were dropping before that, but I'm not going to argue with you on that. Good morning, Robin. How are you? So, yeah. So whether peace will last with the Palestinian people, we'll see, because they, most of the Arab world, I guess, feels the same as the Palestinian people. They would like to see Israel destroyed, but the peace has lasted, certainly with Egypt and the Abraham Accords, with a lot of the other countries around there, seem to at least whether it's 7, 8 years on, have taken hold. So, and this is just Donald Trump. Donald Trump's a different animal. He plays the political game differently, and he knows how to work a room. He knows how to work the people on each side of the deal that he wants to make. And he finds win-win, and he does things that the rest of us think we've been conditioned to think are impossible politically. And if this lasts, it'll be amazing. And Donald Trump will go down as the greatest peacemaker of this generation for sure, because he will have gotten most of Israel's enemies to agree to let Israel exist, at the very least, which is a miracle, and see that this is to their advantage for Israel to exist, and maybe even transform their societies to be more like Israel, because Israel is the only liberal democracy in that whole area. It's the only place where Arabs and Muslims and Jews can live together, because there's, I think, about 25% of Israel is Arab. There's a high percentage Palestinian that live in peace next door and amongst the Jewish people. So it's to their advantage to make peace with Israel and to let their societies, allow their societies to grow and be more prosperous like Israel. But, culture runs deep, and the culture of non-Western people, I've said this last week, is not linear. I think I was talking to Ben about this last week, that it's more circular. Old grievances and old hatreds keep coming back up. Stuff that happened 500 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago are still relevant to them. And it was like Lucas said, we have short memories. Like we forget easily. We don't keep long accounts, which is in some ways is to our credit. But in a lot of ways it's not, because we tend to forget. Those who forget history are condemned to repeat it, right? So look at that. ACU Giants, sweetheart. So so I thought I'd kind of throw it out there. Again, my thoughts are, I've seen this over and over again. Like I said, the Egyptians and the Jordanians and the Qatarans or whatever, Yemenis, whatever, all the other people around there, those are all nation states that Israel has made peace with. Palestinians are they've been a little bit different story. And I was first introduced to the Palestinian, this conflict, let's say, back when I was a kid, watching the Summer Olympics when I was 12 years old, 1972. And it was Israel's first Olympics. They re-entered the international sporting world anyways. It had been probably 25 years since they became a state, and this was their entry back onto the world stage, was having a team at the Olympics. Everyone was celebrating. This was kind of wrapped up the Holocaust nightmare, right? Israel was re-entering things, and sure enough, Palestinian terrorists came in, took the Israelis hostage, and killed them all. And part of it was the German police not even knowing how to handle that kind of situation, the Olympic Committee not being prepared, but mainly it was the brutality of the Palestinians and their sheer hatred of the Jewish people. And that was my first introduction to this, that I'm just a 12-year-old kid. I want to watch the Olympics. I want to see the Americans crush the Soviets, right? Like we all did. And here are these masked guys coming in and, targeting the Jewish team that everyone was just celebrating was there. And then eventually, through the botched response from the Germans, but also just from their brutal hatred, they killed all the hostages. They had killed hostages when they broke in and brutally killed them. As time has gone, the details of that attack have been well known. So that was my first introduction to this, and over the years, back in the early 2000s, Bill Clinton threw up his hands. He was trying to make peace between the Israelis and the PLO with Yasser Arafat, and Israel was willing to give them, I think, 97% of what they wanted. Israel's like, yes, take the land, just let's have peace. And Arafat pulled back. He said, I can't have peace with Israel. First of all, I'll be killed. That's what happened to Anwar Sadat when he made peace with Menachem Begin and Israel. He was assassinated because there's people in the Muslim world and the Islamic world and the Arab world that will not have peace with Israel. And if you make peace with Israel, you're going to pay. So Arafat rejected this very generous offer, and they started an intifada. They started bombing pizza parlors in Israel and killing young, innocent people and just doing horrible things. And so this is my view of the Palestinian leadership. They're the people that are the arm of the Palestinians. I don't think much of them. Hamas has been horrible. Like I said, those October 7th attacks were just brutal and beyond the pale. So can Israel make peace with the Palestinian people? Yeah, I think so. But can they make peace with Hamas? Hamas is not going to be governing. According to this deal, Hamas has to step down and disarm. If I'm right, I heard disarm. And I just don't think that's going to happen. Hamas is going to be the troublemaker for this, because they can't be seen as accepting this. If that happens, then it's a true miracle. And then Donald Trump did something that is superhuman. So, because Netanyahu certainly knows who he's up against. So, okay, Robin, Donald J. Trump will go down in history as the greatest peacemaker who never earned a Nobel Peace Prize. Well, yeah, Netanyahu said Trump should get it. I think that's one thing. Donald Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize. But you're right; they're never going to give it to him. They gave it to Barack Obama before he did anything, and they won't give this to Trump. What happened on the world stage in 1972 ripped away the innocence of so many. How tragic! It really did. I mean, that was. I'll never forget Jim McKay, the famous host of Wild World of Sports and the host of the Olympics. Just, there had been a rumor that all the hostages were free, and so everyone's like, "Oh yeah, he ended up." And then he got on camera and said, "No, they're all dead." And that was loss of innocence for sure, and it was clarity. I'll give them. I'll give the Palestinians this, the PLO and Hamas and Hezbollah too, and all this Houthis and whatever. And basically, it's all Iran, right? It's all Iran sponsored. These people do Iran's bidding, so they provide clarity. They're very honest about their intentions and what they want. And we in the West just are too naive or too complacent. Complacent is a very nice word, but it's just beyond complacency. We've forgotten God. We don't have a moral center, and when you do that, you just when you believe in nothing, you'll believe anything, and it just. The way the media has manipulated this situation so obviously by showing these time after time for year after year after year, whenever there's a conflict like this, the Palestinians and Hamas know they can play the media and they can play the West by time after time staging these supposed atrocities from Israel. And we buy it every time. The media buys it every time. And I know people that buy it every time. And I think it confirms they've grown comfortable with that vacancy in their heart, that lack of a moral center, and it confirms to them that they don't have that moral center. But if they can believe, that they could still believe that Israel is evil and the Palestinians are these innocent people, then somehow that gives them comfort. I don't know. Maybe they're too afraid to face what they've been believing all this time, to face up to. And really, when you do that, you'd have to face up to your enabling of it and your complicity in it. So, yeah. So maybe that's it. Maybe, we're enablers. Palestine is a dysfunctional society, and we in the West and our media enables them. And that takes some deep psychological counseling, I guess. And but the curtain's been laid bare, and now the onus is on the Palestinians, and now the media, the legacy media, whatever you call it, the mainstream media, doesn't have a monopoly on these things. And as Charlie Kirk, I know he wrote a letter to Netanyahu, and other people have been saying this, that Israel has to realize that the West has this problem. I was listening to Mark Levin, and he was saying Israel doesn't have a PR problem. The West has the problem, that we are so gullible and sucked into these things. But Israel has to realize that this is the way the West is. And for now, for this peace to last, we have to get in the PR game. We have to get in the social media game and counteract all these messages that have been going on, this constant drumbeat that after a while people just absorb. And if Israel doesn't have an answer to it, and that's what Charlie Kirk was telling Netanyahu shortly before he was shot, he said, let us help you get in the social media game. And he had all kinds of suggestions for him. So, so Robin, the people are the problem. It's the leadership, the government, and the principalities. Therein lies the problem. Yeah. So, but it's also with us, with what we choose to believe, right? We actually believe that Lucy's going to hold that football for us this time, right? This time we believe that Israel targeted that hospital or that school, right? Or that baby being carried actually isn't a staged manipulation by Hamas. Because those will come up again. This peace there will be a lot of efforts to fracture this peace, and we have to pull our head out of our whats and see that for what it is. So, because Israel, I go back to what Dennis Prager said, and I had thought something like this myself, but he crystallized it the way he put it. He goes, if Israel laid down it says first started with Hamas. If Hamas and Hezbollah and all these people attacking Israel would lay down their arms and say, we're not going to fight anymore, there would be peace throughout the Middle East for the first time ever. If Israel said, we're going to lay down our arms, we're not going to fight anymore, there would be bloodshed from the river to the sea. All of Israel would be wiped out. And then that wouldn't be an end to the violence. Then the radical Muslims would have no enemy to focus on anymore, and then they would go at each other, and there'd be even more blood. So that's the radical Islamic groups and that type of thinking, that worldview it thrives on war. It has to have conflict. And if they don't have it with Israel, they don't have it. I should say, that would be maybe step 3. If after Israel was wiped out, they'd come after us. We would be the common enemy that kept them from fighting amongst themselves. But I think they would still fight amongst themselves. But the one thing that would unite them is targeting the great Satan, which is obviously us. Yeah, Robbins, that's what I said before. When do you believe in nothing? You're a sucker and you fall for everything. When you believe it, yeah. So, all right. So, anyways, it is a big day, and it is progress. I mean, they have gotten Hamas hopefully to agree to this. They've signed off on it. Now, are they? That's, to me, that's the big question from now on: is can you trust Hamas to disarm, to give up power? Can you trust the Palestinian people to elect new leaders, or can you trust the leaders that I think that are being put in place? I think they said there's some kind of there'll be some kind of ruling council from within Palestine. If you can trust them to value this peace with Israel and to resist the radicals within them saying we have to still destroy Israel. We have to use this as a ruse. We have to use this, as a front for more violence, which will happen. If those leaders can do that, then yeah, this will be the miracle everyone thinks it is. So we have some new comments. What do y'all got to say? Yeah, we'd be the great Satan. You're absolutely, yeah. So yeah, I should say that. That's one. Yeah, once if Israel laid down its arms, they'd wipe out Israel, and then whatever unity they would have would be focused at us. And maybe they'd finish off Europe, because they've already pretty much invaded Europe, and Europe's days are numbered, which is another topic for another day. But that's going to be our next world challenge. If the situation in the Middle East is resolved, the suicide of the West and the fall of Europe, and that all that goes with that, will be our next major problem and our major fight. But hopefully it won't get to that. But hopefully Donald Trump's words a few weeks back to Europe, and J.D. Vance's words to Europe, saying you can't let your society be taken over by Islam. We can't, Europe was the cradle of democracy, and it spread democracy all over the world. It spread prosperity all over the world, and now it's being invaded, and the invaders are coming. They're very clear about what their intentions are, and the European people are just letting them come and lying down for it. So we'll see. And maybe that's should be the next focus of Trump's efforts. But who knows? That's another topic for another time. So for now, we have a peace deal that's agreed to by all parties. Donald Trump has shown what a great negotiator he is. He really is. Yeah, democracy versus theocracy. And hopefully democracy is winning, and hopefully, this is something where, what we're doing here has had a big influence. It needs to be more. Israel needs to get in this game more for this to hold. Israel has got to turn public opinion still, even though you have this peace deal. You can't stop. You've still got to, show the world just what happened a couple years ago and just what Hamas has been doing. And now that they're out of power, hopefully we can, exploit that breach and get some people who will actually serve the interest of the Palestinian people. And the Palestinian people will start to turn around their opinions on Israel and on the situation there. So, and if that happens, like I said, this goes back so many years. Like I said, it goes back to my childhood, but it goes way beyond that. And if this can hold, yeah, this is huge. Every bit as big as Egypt and the Abraham Accords, and Donald Trump for Nobel Peace Prize, I say, right? So, hey, it's half an hour. That was quick, as always. And I will see you guys tomorrow with Ben when we talk about, continue our talk on the Crusades. So we'll see you then. Thanks for listening, guys.